everyone. My name is Isabella and I'm super excited that you've stopped by here on ForFamilies Podcast. You know, this is the place where we have conversations on parents, on children, and it's for families. So today, this is a topic that I think affects everybody. When you think about your health, do you remember that saying, health is wealth? I heard it as a child and I was like, how can they say health is wealth? Like, wealth is money, is riches, is cars, is going on vacation. That's my little child's mind thinking what wealth is. But the older I've become, health is really wealth, because small sickness like this, you know how much money you'll be spending going to the hospital, going to see the doctor. Just sometimes, especially abroad, a doctor will just see you, ask a few questions, talk small English. Before you know it, they've given you one big bill for conversation. Oh, they've not even got to bring out big equipment or anything. So when you say health is wealth, really, if you do not pay attention to your health, trust me, you will expend your wealth just trying to stay healthy, trying to stay alive. And if you have had children, you know how much we spend on our kids. When you're pregnant, you're taking supplements. I used to wonder, wait, our ancestors, what were they eating? What supplements were they taking? But you see this thing, you can't run away from it. You're pregnant, you're taking supplements. You're breastfeeding, you're still on vitamins. The older you become, you just see these old people, they have like 20 tablets that they are taking. And all these things cost money. So when we say health is wealth, it's because truly, when you don't have to spend money going to the hospital, spend money buying drugs, medication, really, you are wealthy. Because with good health, you can go after your dreams. With good health, you can live a fulfilling life. You can go out, have fun. When you're a child, you'll be at home. When you're not feeling well, they'll say you're not going to school and you'll be upset because you want to go and play with your friends. So really, having good health is so important as a parent, so that you can take care of your children, as children, so you can have the time of your life. Because adulting, well, I won't say what adulting is, but as an elderly person, having good health means less drugs to take, a lot of energy to play with your grandchildren, great-grandchildren. And I'll say generally, even your employer wants you to be healthy. They want you to be able to do productive work, because if you are healthy, you can do so much more. So I hope with these few points of mine, I've been able to convince you and not confuse you that you should pay attention to your health as a parent, as a child, as a family member, as a friend of a family member. And that's what we're going to be discussing today: raising healthy families. My guest today needs no introduction. In fact, when you see him, you will understand why. But allow me to give him the ForFamilies Podcast introduction. My guest is a consultant pediatrician. He's a techie. He's the co-founder of Agnosis Care on Demand. He's also a social media influencer, content creator, skit maker. He's a creator. You know him as, he's a noisy pediatrician. Oh, he's the Noisy Naija Paediatrician. Also, he is the leader, is the president, is the commander general of the constituencies of babies and children. He is the convener of the baby convention. And what I'll tell you is that he really loves children. He loves helping families, and he's a funny guy. Trust me. I'm really looking forward to this conversation. And maybe you can even call him a Zaddy. You know why I'm saying that. Dr. Ayodele Rena. Woo!
So this is the real Families Podcast. Welcome. Because my head is blowing. And yes, I'm a Zaddy with only the gray beard. The G-Wagon is on the way.
Are you sure? Why are you being humble? Why are you being humble? This gray beard used to mean dollars and pounds. Yeah. He's a pediatrician Odogu Parara. That's what he is.
No problem. Where we're going, I'll show you what I drove in. Good to see you, Isabella.
Good to see you. We're happy to have you here on ForFamilies.
Absolutely Podcast. Amazing to be here. Yes, absolutely brilliant.
So, I've always wondered, like, when I think children, at least as a young person, I always think, oh, women like children. That's what they make you believe. The media, the media does this because they always show women taking care of children. Media, you need to do better. But there are men who are taking care of children. There are men who love children. There are men who dedicate a good part of their lives to taking care of kids and making sure they are healthy. So when did you fall in love with children? Because you can't be a pediatrician and not love kids.
Very interesting question. So the very least is that you can be a pediatrician and be indifferent, because there are actually some pediatricians that are indifferent. They're like, it's just a job. But they really will not be anywhere near as good as pediatricians who genuinely love children. Of course, the indifferent pediatricians are in the minority, but you genuinely have to have a heart for children for you to do this job. And that's because children don't care. Children don't care about you. They will drag your stethoscope. They will shout and fight you. As toddlers, you want to look into their ear and they are shouting, they are screaming. You bring a spatula to just depress their tongue to see if their tonsils are inflamed, and you are going to encounter war. So if you don't have the patience, sometimes even in trying to get access to their veins, if you don't have the patience to actually understand that this is a terrified human being that sees you as some kind of malevolent entity, then you really will lose it. So a lot of people that end up not doing pediatrics, when you ask them, why didn't you do pediatrics? They'll tell you, I just don't have the patience. I just don't have the patience for it. Any child that is screaming in my ear that is not my own child, I'm not going to wait for that. So there are, so to the point, there really genuinely are men who, both in a professional and in a familial capacity, care for their children. The reason why I think the media, puts babies or children beside their mothers is that the emotional appeal of that image is more compelling than seeing one muscle with the baby. It doesn't, the appeal to the emotions is not as compelling as when it's the mother who is nourishing that child, who formed that child in her body. And so depending on the narrative that you're trying to push, and more often than not, yes, it's really easier to push the narrative that a mother is taking care of the child than a father, even though the father, of course, is playing his own role. But that being said, the reality is that survival of a child is most likely to occur, and when I mean survival, I don't just mean living past their 5th birthday. I also mean thriving, the child genuinely doing well. It's predicated on the mother having at least a secondary level of education, not the father.
I knew that you are the Odogu Parara. Yes. Because small question I asked that, why did you fall in love with children? You have already taken us to biology class, telling us the first 1,000 days, the 5 birthday. Yes, we are getting there. But let us know why you even decided to even get involved.
Okay, so for me, pediatrics. So number one, first of all, I'm a second generation pediatrician because my dad is a professor of pediatrics. Hi, Dad.
Hello, Dad.
So I'm a second generation pediatrician. So that was wonderful. Even though if I was going to go by my dad alone, I really might not have done pediatrics, because he would bring textbooks back home and you'd see the most grotesque pictures of children who had very unusual conditions. And I was very fascinated in going through them. It was like a train wreck. You couldn't look away. I'd be going through page after page. You just see, like, Jesus, are people actually living with this? When I now got into medical school, initially I was going to do surgery, but the surgeons weren't very patient. They weren't very kind to either their patients or their students. So I was like, nah, I can't really deal with this, because I'm going to be fighting people every day. So I decided, okay, rotated through pediatrics, and one of the professors there, pediatrics, Professor Okoroma, she was very intentional about making sure that we, the students, knew what the teachers knew. And if you contributed to the care of the patients, when you answered the question, they would implement your suggestion in the care of the patient, and the patient got better. It was just such a gratifying feeling to see a child that you had contributed to whose care you had contributed get better and go home. And that really did inspire me to say, you know what, maybe this is where I really should be. And the rest, as they say, is history.
And we're glad that surgery is lost, pediatricians gain, I be pediatrics
Yes,
gain.
pediatrics gain.
As you were talking, I was like, this man's already advising us, telling us what to do, and it's all great. But I find that sometimes, and I don't know if this happens to you, your doctor, your pediatrician will tell you one thing, then you go home and then association of big mommies, elderly aunties.
I'm looking at them.
Yes. They will come and tell you that you are supposed to give baby water. You are supposed to bath the baby with agbo. And we, your grandparents, we've been drinking the agbo. I'm not saying my own grandparents, so I'm saying what I've heard.
Yes.
They will say, no, you do it like this. What does the doctor know? And in your own case, I mean, I know you personally, you don't have children of your own. Do you ever get that sense like, what do you even know? You don't have your own child. Do you know when I've been doing this thing? And how do you react to that?
I find it very interesting. So the thing about it is that a lot of the hostility and the skepticism that comes from grandparents, they keep it at home. So when they eventually come to the hospital, of course, in a professional setting, of course, they don't know that, I don't have children yet, so they usually it's assumed. So when they come to the hospital, what I find is, and I always find it very hilarious, is that sometimes if the mother needs me to tell the grandmother something, sometimes she might have come into the office to see me first. They say, grandma is doing this. When she comes in, let me tell her that this is not what it's supposed to be. So they come in, and I try to put on my best acting Oscar-winning skills to pretend as though I had not been informed earlier about what the atrocities that the grandma was committing, and then so I try to act like as though, so I now list out all the things that you're not supposed to be doing for the baby. So, don't give the baby any water. There's no need for you to put anything on the baby's, scalp, on the soft spot. And some of the discerning grandmas are kind of like, we know what's going on here. They look at their daughter-in-law like, so you people have come and you've conspired, Abby, you've connived.
Yeah, you guys.
As you don't cast, So on the one hand, the reality is that because they trust the physician, and it's valid for them to say that, this is how I raise my children, but God is so merciful and nature is so balances everything out. The reality is that they won't really tell you about the children that didn't survive as a result of some of these harmful practices. All you hear is that, we've been doing it forever, or they'll attribute the reason why some of those children that they did some of those harmful practices for did not survive to something else, maybe some evil force,
village people,
those sort of things. So not knowing that it really was the thing that they did that ended up making that child not survive, So, but in a professional capacity, they are happy to at least obey the instructions in front of me. When they get home, it's an entirely different thing. And I do find out that there is some sort of social pressure that a lot of mothers specifically are under, in the sense that how do you tell your mother-in-law without sounding rude or without sounding confrontational that what she's doing is supposed to be in the backwater of the gutter, because nobody is doing that anymore, because it's absolutely unnecessary. Even if it's not harmful, it's unnecessary. And with babies, less is more. Of course, as children get older, the dynamic kind of changes since they have some kind of agency, some kind of autonomy. But at the end of the day, the social aspect of the mothers telling their mothers or their mothers-in-law that this is wrong is something that is very difficult for a lot of mothers to navigate. But in front of me, they will agree wholeheartedly.
Wow. Sometimes I find that with new mothers, there's that sense of this thing that you are doing, we've been doing it before.
Yes.
You are just learning work. And I feel like sometimes, I don't know if this also happens to you when it's a man. Is it a bit different? Like, this man, what are you even saying? You did not carry the child. Maybe they might not know that you don't have children of your own, but they might feel like, you can never know it as the woman. You did not carry the baby. You did not do it the way we did it. We have done this. We have almost like the badge of honor. So does that ever come up, that sense of one? Yeah, a man
as a pediatrician.
Yes, and you're not a woman, so you don't feel it the way they are. Or it's like Alakowe, like he has gone to school. That's what they taught him in school. But we know like Abinibi, does that ever come up? Even if the the idea of children
Yes.
doesn't.
Yes, so at least not overtly doesn't spill over. They'll never verbalize it, but you can see a few of them in their body language that, okay, Atibo, we have had you, but I've literally seen people that we gave clear instructions that don't do this, and while under our noses on the admission, they still proceeded to execute their plans, or maybe like that, don't force feed, and right there in the hospital, they force fed the baby, so it's like.
So at that point, it doesn't matter that you're the
No,
physician,
it doesn't
you're
really matter.
the odogu.
No, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter. I mean, they feel. So, for instance, a lot of people, have preconceived notions about what might be wrong with the child. So, for instance, the child comes severely ill, and we think that the child should, halt feeding for maybe a few days. And the mother feels like, oh, this child is weak because this child is not feeding. But the child is actually weak because the child is ill, not necessarily because the child is not feeding. Because usually would give fluid and parenteral nutrition, which is, some sort of, nutrition that you can give through the veins. And so if the child is weak as a result of the illness, they feel the child is weak because the child is actually not feeding. And so for the child that is not really willing or able to feed, they will still try and force the pap, the whatever that they want to give into the child's throat. And this is a child who might not be swallowing properly, and then it ends up going into the wrong place, and the child ends up choking. And that's like a sort of like an extreme example, but there are still these more subtle things that certain parents or grandmothers or mothers might actually do even under our noses. Now they are the minority, but it really does happen. I think sometimes there really is a modifying variable when it comes to ill children. They are more willing to listen to you when the children are ill, and at that point where it's up in the air and you're not sure if they'll survive or not, and so they're happy to obey any instruction. But as the child is getting better like this, they begin to, or if the child is not so terribly ill, that they just came for a well baby check, then they can find a little bit of more defiance. When the child is really, really ill, jump up, they're jumping up. Jump down, they're jumping.
This reminds me of when you're in an airplane and there's turbulence, and that's when you know how to recite all the Bible passages. That's how you know how to pray. That's when you're calling on God in all the different languages, different religions will just come out.
The one that grinds my gears is people who still leave their phone on when the plane is taxiing and when the plane is about, and you're still like, Oga. When the turbulence comes, those same people.
As it. So now I want us to talk about some of these harmful practices. Yes. Because it sounds like it's not a big deal. Is it not just pap? Is it not just water? Is it not just agbo? But there are repercussions. I mean, I'm sure there have been maybe near-death experiences. I'm sure you've seen things in the hospital. Yes. What are some of these harmful practices that need to stop now? And this is the place where you get your grandma, your in-law, your auntie, the elderly people to come and watch because Odogu is speaking.
So harmful practices. If we're to make a list, we really would never leave here. But I'd say if we could categorize them under drug administration, physically harmful practices, and then maybe I'd say negligent practices. So under administration of substances, the prime culprit is administration of agbo or herbal concoctions. Now, I know people will say that, a lot of us were raised on, agbo. A lot of us were raised on, herbs. But we are fine. Are you really fine?
Are you really fine?
Are you really fine?
Is that agbo really working?
Have you checked your kidney?
Ooh.
Have you checked your brain? It's not your brain, no. But really, you ask yourself that how come a lot of people are coming down, with hypertension really early. If you take the history and go back, were they using things like agbo consistently? What were those exposures like? And you see, the infant kidney, the infant organs are really, really susceptible, to chemical damage from these things that are not dosed, contents of which you are unaware. some of which contain alcohol. Some of them will say, but no, we actually give them only the ones with water. Some of them might actually contain just a little alcohol. The maker of the agbo might not tell you. Some of them contain camphor, naphthalene. And these are things that are harmful chemicals. And at the end of the day, you ask yourself, what really is the advantage of giving this agbo? They say, it makes the body stronger, keeps infection away. These children will still fall ill once they're exposed to infections. So I do know of a child, who, and I keep on telling this story, really sad. Child was giving birth to abroad, came back, grandmother came for an omugo. She brought agbo, for the child, and then administered the agbo. Again, people will react differently to different things. Some people will get the agbo and they'll be absolutely fine at that point in time. But unfortunately, this baby developed, really catastrophic liver failure and ended up dying. And this child was not more than 6 weeks. So yes, it was about.
Wait, this is a death experience. This is not near death.
No. The infant actually died. So of course the liver is responsible for creating clotting factors, which prevents our blood from leaking out of our vessels. So the liver just wasn't able to create those clotting factors anymore, and then the blood became so thin, baby just bled out. So and that was a catastrophe. I can't imagine how the grandmother would have been able to live with the guilt of that idea that she could potentially have been responsible for the death of her grandchild. So now that's just one example. Now, of course, there are other things that parents, and grandmothers administer that are absolutely unnecessary. So things like antibiotics at birth, things like self-medication, which I think we all engage in,
I mean, if your baby is running temperature, okay, your toddler, I mean, maybe not baby, maybe toddler. At least you say, okay, let me first give them like paracetamol.
We don't mind paracetamol. Okay, paracetamol is over the counter. But people go and get, antibiotics.
But don't you need a prescription for that?
Don't you need a prescription in Nigeria? In Nigeria, you can just stroll into the same way you can stroll into a Ebano and buy chinchin. It's the same way you can stroll into a pharmacy and pick up antibiotics that you want. It's only really reputable pharmacies that will say, no, we're not going to give you this drug because it's over the counter. So it begs the question, if they are selling antibiotics to people over the counter, what else are they selling over the counter? Controlled substances, pentazocine, so those sorts of things. So it begs the question. Then, so self-medication, is yet another one. So at the end of the day, dosing might be wrong, frequency might be wrong. And when the child doesn't get better, they come to the hospital expecting us to work some magic. So we're like, okay, so what drug did you give? With the highest form of antibiotic. And they're like, okay, you know what? So there's one leaf at the back of my house that I can bring for you to go and boil. Since you have already done my work for me, let's just go into the evil forest and bring out. Yes.
Speaking of these leaves, some will say, okay, we're not making the agbo for the child, but we're bathing the baby in agbo. Is there any health benefit for this herbal bath?
Again, so it's one thing. So the people who do it, the practitioners, will claim that there are health benefits, but it really is for you to present evidence that these health benefits exist. The particular skin condition that they usually give those baths for is ELA, which is I think what we call is some sort of fungal malassezia 4 infection. So which usually might go away by itself, but when they use those herbs, they claim that it actually clears. But we know that some of these fungal infections will actually go away by themselves, even without any kind of antifungal or intervention. But they're like, oh, whoopee, look, it has gone away by itself, sorry, it's called, the medical name will come back to me. Anyway, so does it work? I guess is the question. We don't have any evidence that it does. And the burden of providing evidence is really on the people that are doing the baths. Would I advise the baths? No, I wouldn't advise the baths. And this sort of like segues into a few things that I've seen actually. There are some influencers, and proponents for us to return to our traditional methods of doing things. And they put a picture of a baby, and the baby was, really well laid inside a bunch of herbs, and they're like, oh, going back to our roots, leave all these vaccines alone, so there is a group of people that are advocating that, children should be given herbs and bathed in herbs as a means of protection from vaccine preventable diseases rather than actually take the actual immunization. So I'd say that is a dangerous and borderline irresponsible approach to evidence that has demonstrated that vaccines work and vaccines have protected and saved billions of lives, over the last century. The issue of physical practices like turning baby upside down and shaking
Yes,
baby.
they'll say they are stretching the limbs, and I'm like, don't go and damage the shoulder. They'll say, once you turn the baby like this, me, I don't allow it for my own. Anyway, nobody wanted to, but it scares me.
It's and they say that, but the baby will sleep very well after. Let them come and stretch you like that. Let them come and stretch you
You
like
can't turn me upside down and be stretching me. I'm old.
let them come and stretch you like chewing gum. You just tell me that you will not sleep for the next 24 hours. So the baby slept well. So babies, and at the end of the day, really, babies, what else do? They sleep. And okay, so is it that you want to be stretching the baby every time you want the baby to sleep? You stretch the baby like that. So I believe that idea of stretching the baby came from a place where babies could develop neonatal tetanus at some point, and neonatal tetanus is characterized by stiffness of the baby, and so they felt that maybe if we stretch the baby well enough, the baby wouldn't develop the stiffness. But now we know that neonatal tetanus has nothing to do with whether you stretch the baby or not. If the baby's cord is contaminated, usually it's the cord that is the source of access for the organism, is contaminated with soil, which is crazy. I mean, some people actually use cow dung, to clean the cord to care for the cord of the baby. Some people used to use toothpaste, none of which of course is correct.
I'm sure the doctor, the pediatrician would have told you, or the obstetrician, like, okay, when you
See, Isabella, see, these Nigerians that have access to pediatricians and obstetricians and gynecologists, they are in the minority.
So that means what they have is the elders. What they have is
the elders. So which is why, up until now, if you think about our under 5 infant mortality rates and our under 5 mortality rates, right now, I think maybe we are second after Niger or something when it comes to under 5 mortality. So second highest anywhere in the world. Even Gaza, they're under 5 and not dying the way Nigerian under 5s are dying, So if you think about that, and we're not even in wartime, so you ask yourself, so what really is making our under 5s die so early? So it's lack of access to care, even the most basic primary health care. So the majority of Nigerians are not even giving birth in a hospital, they're giving birth at home. So lack of access to health care, lack of access to vaccination, poor nutrition, poverty. Adults have not finished eating. Is it children that are now start giving food to to the 5-year-olds, but they're not bringing anything into the family. So these are the reasons why.
I want to go to that vaccination because I know someone who has said, oh, I'm not going to vaccinate my kids anymore because I vaccinated my child and the child has special needs. And the special needs is being attributed to vaccination. Is this a rare case, or is this something that you hear? And are there any side effects to taking immunization? I don't know, because for me, I feel like I've always taken immunization, so it was only natural for my kids too. But hearing this, I was like, wait, you're not vaccinating your children anymore? And it's like, no, I don't, after that episode.
So the vaccine hesitancy, is something that is very real, it's very present. And vaccine hesitancy really does cut across socioeconomic demographics.
But vaccines are free. You can go to a primary health care and it's free, right?
Yes, it's free.
Yes.
So why I've brought up the socio-demographic thing is really more about the reasons why there's hesitancy based on knowledge or lack thereof. So the very educated people have access to a bunch of resources that they can read, some of which actually promote this idea that vaccines are responsible for things like autism and developmental delay. The problem with that and those accounts and that evidence is that the evidence is flawed, because the very first study that was done that linked autism with the MMR vaccine was actually withdrawn from the journal in which it was published, because it was found out that there was a very significant bias, and he did not declare that there was a conflict of interest, in which, number one, he actively selected patients who already had autism spectrum disease, and then retrospectively sort of like asked them if they had received the MMR vaccine. And of course, majority of them had received the MMR vaccine. So it looked as though definitely they were linked, which they were not, because he had a serious bias. What if he had selected, more randomly, then the results would have been more valid. That is one. Two,
that is what they call wuru to the
wuru
answer.
to the answer.
Because you already knew what the answer was. Now looked for how to get
the
there.
People that were sponsoring that particular study, were firms that already were actively processing claims of people who felt that the vaccines were responsible for the children's autism or special needs. And there's some sort of coincidental occurrence of developmental delay around the same time as the reception of certain vaccines. So a child who will develop autism, even if they not receive the vaccine, will develop the symptoms of autism somewhere around that 15 to 18 months, when that vaccine is administered. So in terms of the temporal relationship, people quickly related the two, but it is just coincidental. So that's the wealthy people. For the people who aren't so wealthy, their own problem is that, unfortunately, somehow they've just heard it on the wind that, the government is trying to sterilize us. They think we are too many, and perhaps they want to just reduce our population. And so maybe don't take this vaccine, and all of that. So you've got those two, and those two really need to be approached, one, with empathy. You need to approach them with evidence, in a way that is understandable, because at the end of the day, they're not doing it simply because they want to, they want to harm their children. They're doing it because they fear that harm will come to their children as a result of administration of this vaccine, and they want to protect their children. Nobody wants to do, what is wrong, for their child. And so we as healthcare workers need to approach them with empathy and offer them the vaccines at every point in time. But at the end of the day, it's incontrovertible that vaccines do save lives and have done more for human health than perhaps any other kind of intervention.
And speaking of these vaccines, did you take COVID-19 vaccine?
I did. I took 2 doses.
Me too. I took the COVID-19 vaccine. In fact, I was in America, and it was the doctor that said, at this point, you need to take the vaccine. So I'm like, okay, they've said I should take it. I'm in their headquarters, because when we think about how COVID-19 really affected people, and I do think I had COVID-19 at some point, even though I never got tested, but I lost my sense of smell, and the only taste I could taste was pepper. I couldn't taste anything else, but I could taste pepper. So it was just very, very weird for me. And I feel like taking the vaccine, I felt like, okay, maybe I'm more protected, or the severity of the symptoms.
The COVID vaccine thing, of course, people were very scared about COVID vaccines, saying that, you'd develop, clots and whatnot. Well, it was a new vaccine that was developed, and it was developed so quickly that people were really, really terrified as to what technology is that will make you develop vaccines so quickly. And the RNA vaccine was something that was new and that was different, and so people wondered if perhaps they were trying to insert chips in us. Till today, I'm still trying to catch Wi-Fi through my head.
I heard that too.
Today, till tomorrow, no Wi-Fi is entering my head. My internet is still slow in my house.
And speaking of vaccines, there was one I recently took. I forgot to take the second dose. Diphtheria.
No, diphtheria. Okay.
Diphtheria. Do you advise adults? Because this is not just for the kids. Adults too. There are some vaccines you're supposed to take.
Yes. So
as a woman, as a man. While we're on the topic.
So diphtheria, you should actually get a diphtheria booster every 10 years as an adult. Yes, you should, because your immunity kind of wanes over time. And you see, diphtheria is really, really tricky. It's such a clever organism that it latches onto the person's maybe nose, throat, sometimes skin, and then it appears as though that is where it is limited to. But no, it produces a toxin. And the toxin, regardless of whether you treat the organism, the toxin will not respond to the antibiotics that you give to treat diphtheria. So the toxin will go and either attack the heart or the nervous system, including the brain, leading to what we call the myocarditis, in which the person can develop heart failure and die, or the person can develop brain swelling, seizures, and also die. So that is why, the boosters of diphtheria are so important. That even if you treat the diphtheria with antibiotics, the toxin requires an antitoxin, doses of which are limited. So if there's an outbreak and you have only maybe like 1,000 doses and 10,000 people have come down, so who do you select? How do you select the 1,000 people who will get the diphtheria antitoxin? And quite frankly, when the diphtheria antitoxin kicks in, out of those 10,000 people, about half of them will develop symptoms as a result of the toxin. And when I say SAB is just 5,000 people, I think we get a little bit insensitive, in this part of the world to hearing that people have died. It's because it happens so often and it's so casual. I mean, we are so many. But that one person that died is somebody's 100%.
Very true. I mean, prevention is better than cure, really. And knowledge is power, because I'm learning, every 10 years, like, why do I want to even put myself in that position?
In that situation.
Like really, I mean, I think we can say so much about immunization, but I also want us to move to, nutrition. And I say that because, again, some of us will say, what is happening? Even as adults, we are not as strong, we're falling ill, we have all these conditions, we're on medication, and people say, okay, the nutrition of our ancestors or the generations before, and maybe some of their health habits, like, they're not all pressing phone, they're standing, they're running, hunting, and the rest. So I want us to look at just our nutrition, really. And for us adults, but also for kids too, because a lot of times it's easy to say, oh, don't worry, I'll make special meals for the children. But after a while, the child has never reached 6 months. You're already giving them a amala. You're doing like, no, wait 6 months. I even know that one, that you wait 6 months before introducing water and introducing semi-solid, or at least maybe 5.5 months when there are some signs. So your guy is here. Let him tell us, but very important. I think we cannot overemphasize how important nutrition is.
Yes, nutrition, you are what you eat, and that is so much truer even for children than even for adults, because at the end of the day, really, adults have done all the growing and development that they need to do. So any more food than you require for your capacity is going. I mean, it's just not doing anything for you. The only direction in which you can grow is sideways. And of course, we know that, excessive weight, of course, is something that is undesirable, because it can predispose to chronic non-communicable diseases, like hypertension.
All this plenty English. If you eat too much, you go waiting. You go fat, you go kpai,
you go bust,
because your heart no fit carry am.
As far you go rupture.
So, all this plenty English, you're confusing us.
Families podcast, I used to put the English there. So yeah, if you eat too much, yes, essentially the food just accumulates and predisposes the person to all these diseases. But with children, I think, one, we need to put things in perspective and realize that children have personalities and will have preferences for different kinds of food. So, number one, don't try to force any child to conform, essentially, too strictly, let me put it that way, to the dictates of the home diet. Not as if you make a separate meal for them, but don't expect them to like everything that you like. And that's one. Two is that in introducing semi-solids, and I'm just trying to cover the principles. In introducing semi-solids, the purpose, especially in the first between 6 months and 1 year, because you introduce semi-solids at 6 months. Between 6 months and 1 year, it's not really only about giving them nutrition. It's about giving them the opportunity to learn how to eat. So while the cereals are nice and stuff, and the purees are also good, but you also want to be able to teach them how to explore food, touch it, pick it up, eat it, train themselves to understand that this is what I'm going to be doing for the rest of my life. The third thing is that children are not going out to go and buy food for themselves. So it is what you introduce to them that they will continue with. So if you introduce the packed fruit juice, the high sugar containing foods, that is what they will want going forward. And I do realize that there's a time, when there's a place for fast food, there's a place for pizza, there's a place for ice cream during those celebrations. Don't begrudge them that, allow them that, but don't make it routine to have unhealthy food waiting in the fridge. Soda,
So are you saying that parents should not be putting these high sugar drinks inside lunchbox every day?
So I do know that there are schools that actually have a no juice policy, and people are sending their children to those schools, which I think is such a profound statement on what it is to be healthy. I think it's just easy to just pack those juices, and there's a place in us that actually feels like, oh, it's a sign of love, that we're actually packing those things. And a lot of these people have such smart marketing and say that it contains vitamin C. Along with the vitamin C, 25% of the recommended daily allowance of vitamin C. Along with that vitamin C, you will have 80% of the recommended amount of added sugars.
Wow.
As well, and we'll still offer cookies, and we'll offer biscuits, and we'll offer those other things, such that if a child is supposed to get maybe like 100 grams of sugar in the day, by the 12 midday they've already gotten 200 grams, and
because that little juice here, little biscuits here, little snack here. When
so, yes, so don't stop those things if you really are not going to give them. Instant noodles is convenient, but is it really what you should do?
They're about to break the table.
Yes.
And why? Because pasta, instant noodles, they look similar.
They look similar, but they are not. The reality is that dried pasta, is mainly flour, not very many things to try to preserve it. And and it doesn't come with a sodium-filled sachets for seasoning. I know some people might opt out of the seasoning, to make the food for their babies. But again, if you talk to the nutrition experts, they'll tell you that instant noodles is covered with a lot of wax, and it really is so laden with preservatives that maybe it's really not what you should be doing. If you must serve anything that looks like a worm, then maybe it really should be pasta, like wholemeal pasta, if preferably. But even the refined wheat pasta is far better than instant noodles. Each person, and I know it's not easy to draw the timetable that we were talking about. Draw timetable, change it every 3 months. A lot of mothers and parents are really so busy that to draw that timetable can be difficult. But I think if you don't make the attempt, you will never know if you'll be able to adhere to a timetable. I think people eat better when they plan what they are going to eat. For any child that decides that I'm a picky eater, I don't want to eat this one or that one, or I don't want to eat this, please avoid making separate meals for them. Let them eat the little that they can out of that meal, or have something quick and emergency that you can just quickly warm. Not the one that you make a meal from scratch for somebody that is doing picky eating. That being said, pay attention to fruits and vegetables, protein of high biological value, fish, beef, turkey, chicken, and healthy fats, particularly things like avocados. And then dairy is really great. So Greek yogurts, whole milk, full cream milk, just to get them those vitamins and minerals that they need all through the day. And hopefully with these few points of mine, yeah.
To born pikin no easy. Old money like this. So what I'm saying is that it requires a lot of resources to give children the nutrition that they really need. I mean, we can go on and on, but I think my final question will have to be like your greatest lesson through it all. What's the biggest lesson you've learned as a consultant pediatrician, or just even engaging with mothers, your constituency members? You alluded to it in the beginning, the shouting, the curiosity, the crying. Yes, what's that big lesson you're taking from it all?
So I think the most profound thing, that I really have come to learn is that for people whose brains are working properly, nothing will be more precious to them in this life than their child. Nothing will be more important to them nothing will be more precious to them than their child. Not land, not money, not wealth, not political position. And if a parent comes to you, they're coming in that vulnerability that I have brought the most precious thing in my life to you. Even if it is something as minor as I need you to help me to relieve this pain. It's a privilege to think that the thing that another human being treasures the most in this world is something that they've given us the permission to care for. And so that is the way I think that everyone should approach every child. That this is the most precious thing in somebody's universe. And that's how every child should be viewed by the society.
That's really reassuring to know that you're not the father of that child, but you have such commitment and care and a sense of responsibility and duty. I think knowing that as a parent that, oh, this person is looking at my child as the most important thing, not even the car or the land or the wealth or anything, but that life.
Person.
Yes, I think we can really learn from that, and it's the child, by extension, human lives that we come in contact with every single day. We should just treat that life like there was something you said about, one child can be somebody's 100 children.
Somebody's 100%.
It's that one life matters. Thank you so much, Dr. Ren. I feel like we can go on and
honestly.
on. I mean, do you have anything that you are burning is on your mind? Like, if I don't say it on ForFamilies Podcast, I won't be okay.
Well, essentially, I just say, follow me on Instagram at the Noisy Naija Paediatrician. That is what I want to burn into me to say.
Yes, follow him. I love his content, and I'm not saying it because he's here, because he actually conveys so much in so less. You can just put one soundtrack or one caption like this and I'm rolling, I'm laughing, but the truth is that you have educated me, and there are things that I've learned without opening a textbook, but just by following his page. And well done on all the work you are doing with the baby convention. Amazing conversations, relationships built from there, and also just taking our constituency members, the babies and children. Yes. You're still hanging out with me, Isabella on ForFamilies Podcast, and this part is where I tell you what I'm loving now, those products, services that I'm feeling personally. Now, I just love how technology is literally making our lives so much easier. I mean, you think about it, there's probably an app, a web-based solution, a WhatsApp group, and life becomes easier. So this one is for the parents, and I could also say maybe caregivers. You are thinking about how to get your children vaccinated, and it's like, I don't have time. Come and take them to the primary health care or take them to the hospital. Do you know that you can actually have the healthcare professionals come to meet you at home or in your office, wherever you are, Lagos or Abuja? So I'm putting you on this, and this is Agnosis. Just go and check them. Agnosis Care on Demand. They have a website, easy to chat with them on WhatsApp, and really, they will tell you, okay, your child is this age. These are the vaccines you need to take. When they come, they won't just administer the vaccine. They will still weigh your baby, measure your baby, take the vitals, and they will administer the vaccine. So don't start stressing yourself and say, traffic, I don't have time more. And then you keep delaying it. Before you know it, 1 week has passed, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, when you can make your life so much easier. Tell them that we sent you from ForFamilies Podcast, and I'm sure they will treat you very well. Really, you have no reason why your child or your children should not be vaccinated. I can go on and on about the benefits of vaccines, and I have vaccinated my children. I, like this, me, or the old human being like me, well, I'm young at heart, I'm also vaccinated. So this is another way technology is literally making our lives so much easier. And as I said, WhatsApp, the website, and it's a brand that you can vouch for. I mean, sometimes you hear about these brands and like, who is the person behind this thing? Let me tell you who the person behind this brand is. The co-founder is Dr. Ayodele Rena. He's a consultant pediatrician. I'm sure you've seen lots of his content online. You've even seen him on ForFamilies Podcast. We've had a long conversation with him. So if you are still doubting, trust me, this is not one of those things that are here today, gone tomorrow. It is legit, and you can do your own research. He's a co-founder. He has years of experience in pediatrics, and this is just solving a pain point because he understands how parents can be so busy with work. So don't sleep on it. Don't sleep on vaccinating your children. And if you still want to take your kids to the primary health care, you can do so. I'm not saying you shouldn't. You can still take them to the hospital. But the thing about it is that you can actually find out from your HMO if it is covered. So if your HMO is already covering you to use agnosis care on demand, then why do you want to stress yourself? Save the petrol, enjoy yourself, enjoy that time that you have with your kids and make sure they are vaccinated. So go check them out, and remember, health is wealth. So don't play when it comes to your kids. Don't play. Those children are precious, and the research, the evidence is there why vaccines help to save lives, millions of lives, I dare say billions of lives when you think about it. So that's what I'm loving now. What are you loving? Let me know, and I would love to hear from you. It's our show together, this ForFamilies Podcast. So get in touch, let me know. Put me on to the good stuff the way I put you on to the good stuff. Yeah, this burning question, let me not lie. It is something that I have had to answer myself. So I'm just sharing, it's because it's not easy. And a lot of times I see this come up, online in conversations with other moms, dads, parents, caregivers, guardians, and it has to do with help. Before, I used to believe I could do everything by myself, but I have repented. I am not superwoman. I'm not super mommy, and neither should you be. Super mommy, super daddy, super guardian, super grandparents. No, we all need help. Let's tell ourselves the truth. Sometimes we think, in the olden days, we did not have nannies, we did not have drivers, we did not have this, we did not have that. But do you know that in the same olden days, we probably had members of your extended family in the house? So the burden of raising that child was not left to one person alone or two people. And that's why they say it takes a village to raise a child. So when you are trying to constitute this village of yours, get reputable help, a caregiver, because I feel like house help makes it sound different. Like the person that is taking care of your children. Yes, a nanny, an au pair, a caregiver, the person that you are entrusting your most precious jewel, the most important thing in your life. Because a life you cannot go to the store and buy. So how do you find reputable help? I'll say what has helped me is talking to other parents, hearing from experiences. It's having one-on-one conversations, asking the hard questions. Okay, what was your experience? Okay, did you go through an agency? Did your mommy go to the village to bring somebody? Is this person, did you go through their medical records, health records, employment history? Why is this person even doing the job? For me, the more I talk to other parents who have been down this path, the easier it becomes. I know that when I was getting, the first nanny that worked with us, who incidentally was a live-out nanny, it was another mother who spoke to me, and she gave me my time, because immediately I didn't come around. I thought I could do everything, but eventually I saw the light, and she was very helpful, sharing contacts. So this is not to gatekeep, and we don't do that here. So finding help, you can go through an agency, do your research. You can join some WhatsApp groups where you can, like parenting WhatsApp groups. Some come at a fee, some are free, where you can meet with people, you can chat, you can discuss. You can also go online to see, what the options are. There are reputable agencies, there are organizations that provide different kinds of care. Sometimes what you just need is that on-demand care, maybe just for a couple of hours. You have agencies that can supply a nanny for a day, agencies that can supply caregivers, not just even for your children, because this is for families. So in your own home, it might not be a child that you need care for. It might be an elderly parent or a relative. There are organizations and agencies that provide caregivers, but it's important you do your research, talk to as many people as you can, and be very judicious with your interview process. Don't just take everything at face value. I'm not saying that you should not become Inspector Gadget or investigative journalist, but when you think about it, go the extra mile. Ask the questions that might take them by surprise. Okay, this work you are doing, how long do you plan to do it for? What were you doing before this? What are some things that you have done that you wish you did not do? It will also let you know whether that person is a truthful person. Okay, what is your area of weakness? Your areas of strength? Have you worked with children? Maybe you have children living with special needs, for example. So it's important that, you talk, you go the extra mile to ask the questions and ask for references. Very, very important. And if you are a person of faith like I am, you commit it into the hands of the Lord, because when all is said and done, truly there are just some things that in my own experience is only God, because no matter how much technology that you put there, are you going to monitor it 24/7? So that's what has helped me. And I would like to know from you, how have you gone about finding reputable health in your city, in your country? Let me know. Our contact details are there. You can slide into our DM, send us a message, or just leave a comment. Wow, what an episode it has been. I really love these conversations because I find that I'm learning so much. There are some things that you just take for granted and you think you know it, but when you go deeper in conversations like health now, like you can never, even the doctors are still learning. How much more me? Health is wealth. Or what do I need to be doing for my children? What do I need to be doing for myself? What do I need to be paying attention to? And sometimes we forget that we have influence. It might just be that person that is watching your WhatsApp stories. It might be that person that is looking at your TikTok, where you're in a position to share valuable information. Please go ahead to do it. There are some things that are literally killing our children, some harmful practices. All this drinking of agbo, stop it. Are you regulating the agbo? Do you know whether it's 2 teaspoons? If you are taking cough mixture, they'll tell you 2 teaspoons 3 times a day. But with agbo, how do you know how to put the right dosage, for example? And then vaccine, so important. Like, we cannot continue to have the second highest mortality rate in the world and not pay attention, infant mortality, to the health practices. So I've been challenged as a parent, as someone who loves children, to just do better, paying attention to food, to health practices, to getting vaccines on time, and generally reading up more and asking questions and not just taking everything at face value. And we hope that these conversations on parents, on children, you find them useful, because it's really for families. I've really enjoyed that conversation. I know our guest is someone that you see on social media, and he uses a lot of humor and satire and music and those short, witty things, Dr. Ayodele Rena, to engage us, but it's packed with so many truths. So really enjoyed our conversation. Dr. Rena, you can come anytime. This is home for you, because I feel like today was not enough to discuss all the many things I had planned. And then on the issue of vaccines, like, don't let time and money and how busy you are, and you just keep pushing it. Like, I put you on to what I'm loving now, which is truly, a web-based solution, WhatsApp, where you can reach out to healthcare professionals. They'll come to your house, your office in Lagos or Abuja to give your child the vaccine. So yes, and then we touched on finding reputable health, and really we're learning every day. So you might not go through an agency. You might choose to, have someone come from the village. If that's what you do, please don't bring a young child, like a 5-year-old or 7-year-old or 10-year-old. That's child labor. Like, let me just put that out there. You need to get an adult that is by law allowed to work. We're running out of time. And if you allow me, I can go on and on about ForFamilies, because that's what this podcast is about. So please, if you haven't already subscribed, go ahead, subscribe, click the link in the bio, tap the bell for notifications, slide into our DM, connect with us across the different social media platforms. My name is Isabella Adedige. I've had an amazing time hosting ForFamilies Podcast, and I can't wait for you to join us again. And we'll call it a wrap. So bye.